So today is all about Hurricane Helene and some of the events that happened back in September. Close to 1.3 million gallons of water was pouring over the Nolichucky Dam each second. The quick rise in the water level surprised a lot of people, leaving a lot of people stranded. These folks that are in front of me played a huge part in rescuing a lot of people. You all recognized at a commission meeting for a Valor Award, all four of you, for your efforts in the rescues and things that happened in Helene. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Appreciate that very much.
Like one hand on the piece of pipe clothesline and one hand on the boat, like holding at times the entire boat.
Yeah.
To that house. So.
Yeah. And when it come by me, I tried to grab it and it made it by me.
Wow.
So I had to swim over and grab it. I took it over to the boat, threw it. Justin grabbed it and threw it in.
It's a little bit different flood than what we're used to. I mean, it looks like something you'd see on CNN at night with a breaking alert.
Won't you take me back to Tennessee?
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest info about hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. This episode is brought to you by GSM Outdoors, whose vision is to preserve the sportsman's legacy, fuel innovation, and enable the next generation of outdoor enthusiasts. Think outside. That's where you'll find us. Now, make welcome your host, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today, and we got a full house here in Studio B in Nashville, Tennessee, and Mr. Matt Cameron is helping me co-host. How's it going, Matt?
Man, this is the warmest I've been in 2 weeks, bro. It's like it's been single digits.
Yep.
And in this room here, we're all nice and cozy. So, man, I'm here. I'm ready.
You got a cold joke for us?
Man, I talked to my friend who lives down in Louisiana. He tried to duck hunt last week, and they had all that snow. He said the ducks came in, and it was cold. They turned around and started flying back north for the winter. And he said some of them tried to land, they froze to the swamp. But when they got up and tried to fly off, they took the swamp with them. So now they ain't got a swamp left to hunt. Crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that's some crazy stuff happening around here these days.
Yeah.
Well, that's the voice of Matt Cameron, and normally Matt's with me in Region 4, East Tennessee, but we got a special show for you today coming out of Nashville, and we got a group of great folks here with us today to talk about some events that happened back in September and with Hurricane Helene and some of the things that are still going on. So anyway, just wanted to give you that intro, but first I want to cover a radio station. We always appreciate our radio stations for airing Wildcast across the state from Bristol to Memphis. You can hear this show, and the station today is WJDT out of Morristown. They air Wildcast at 5:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. So we appreciate WJDT out of Morristown. And again, we appreciate all our radio stations and radio partners across the state. If you watch, listen, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe from those different platforms where you find our show. Our partnership with GSM this year, we're going to be giving away a lot of prizes, so it's important that you like, subscribe, share, comment, all those things. Engage with us so that you can get your name in the hat for some of these cool prizes from GSM Outdoors this year. And check out all those brands at gsmoutdoors.com. All right. Well, today we've got Shelly Hammonds with us, our new Lieutenant Colonel for the TWRA. I'm glad you're here, Shelly.
Thank you.
We've got Jeff Prater, and he's our Region 4 Lieutenant out of East Tennessee. Justin Pinkston, Wildlife Officer in East Tennessee, and you've heard from Matt already, our Communications Coordinator and Officer out of East Tennessee. So we're happy to have you guys here with us today and excited to have this conversation and just reflect on some of the events back in September and just kind of get it firsthand from you all and share it with our Wildcast audience. But you all recognized at a commission meeting in Memphis with the Valor Award, all four of you, for your efforts in the rescues and things that happened during those events of Helene. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Appreciate that very much.
Yes, sir.
Let's kick it off with Shelly. Shelly, you just recently took the promotion for Lieutenant Colonel.
Yes.
And you've had a lifelong career with the agency in many different aspects, different positions, and just share with the folks a little bit about your career and kind of how you got to where you are today, and then we'll dive into some more stories and things.
Okay. Well, I started out in 1997 as a county officer in Rutherford County. And
right here in Middle Tennessee.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. And about a year after that, I was able to transfer back home. I'm from East Tennessee, and I was able to go to Cott County, where I spent the next 16 years as a county wildlife officer. I was blessed with a lot of good people to work with, a lot of good people that trained me.
Mm-hmm.
My old partner in Cott County, we were partners for, 12 years maybe.
Yep.
And
Give him a shout out.
Scott Hollenbeck. Yeah, he is a legend. God bless me with a lot of good people in my life to help raise me to where I am, I guess.
Yeah.
Give me things that I should never forget. And so then I promoted to the regional lieutenant position in Region 4. And in 2020, I was promoted to the major position, and then just recently, lieutenant colonel.
Very cool. Very cool. Are you the first female lieutenant colonel for the agency?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. Working your way up, and it's very cool for you to achieve that position. And you're a great influence for the agency and all those people who work under you, and a great leader. So
It's kind of you to say.
yeah. Congratulations. I can remember back when I first started with the agency, looking back at some old Wildside footage. I believe you were out working some bear hunts and things like that. So we have to dig that footage out, Todd, and add that.
Please, by all means.
But so that was, those were cool things to look back on and see you working out there. I didn't get to work beside you in many events, but, good work.
Thank you. Thank you. I've had the time of my life. I can tell you that.
She's got some other special certifications that you would think wouldn't play into being a wildlife officer, or much less a major or lieutenant colonel. Would talk about the other certifications you got really quickly. Don't spend too much time on it, but I think that helped you get into coordinating a lot of our training and just helping us be more effective as wildlife officers and sometimes rescuers in the agency.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I have a registered nursing license and also a paramedic license. So.
And 2 master's degrees.
Yes.
And a wildlife.
You're just going to pull it all out of you.
But man, she's gassing her up, man.
Yeah.
She doesn't need that, but I just want y'all to know that she went above and beyond to get to where she's at. She didn't just do the status quo and get promoted. She's a real deal. Think a lot of her as a sister. Mm-hmm. We pick at each other quite a bit, and I'm usually on the other end of that. Done this kid. But at any rate, no, I grew up in Jefferson County. I hunted in Cott County quite a bit in Rankin Bottoms. That's where I saw her for the first time. I'm like, wow, there's a girl game warden. It was the coolest thing, you know, back then. She never wrote me a ticket or anything either. So God bless her for that. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to tell you a little bit more about her. 'Cause we're very proud of her.
Well, thank you for pulling that out, those little tidbits out. We needed to share that. While we're doing it, let's just go ahead and jump into Jeff. Jeff, tell us a bit about yourself. We need to get a little full background here. I don't want to skip anybody.
Yeah, so I started as a part-time boating officer back in 2001, and I'm from Middle Tennessee as well. So I was on Center Hill Lake for a couple of years before I hired in full-time. Went off to Carter County to start my full-time career. Stayed in Carter for about 1 year. When I got off probation, I transferred to Washington, stayed there for about 9 years. Mm-hmm. When we restructured in 2012, I became a sergeant in District 42. A year later, unfortunately, our lieutenant, Gary McWhirter, passed away, and I filled his position. So I became the district lieutenant in 2013, and I stayed there until 2020 when Shelley moved up. I sort of come in and filled her shoes as a regional lieutenant. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your work and your dedication to the agency. Justin, tell us a bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into some of these stories and stuff.
So I started in 2019, so I'm on my 6th year. I was hired to Jefferson County. I'm from East Tennessee in Greene County, so it's nice to get close to home, but not right back in home.
Yeah. Some of those times, it can be hard to work in your home county. I mean, you know a lot of people, and
everyone gets treated the same. Right or wrong.
That's right.
Way to look at it.
Mom's fishing without a license. We'll do business.
Wow. You heard that, Mom.
Wayne Rich at his retirement, his mom was there, and they said Wayne Rich is the kind of guy who would have written his own mom a ticket. And she was there, and he said, I'll never see my mama fishing, or I probably would have.
Mine knows better. So if you're going to break the law and you know me, you know what's coming.
Hey, Justin is Officer of the Year as well. Talk about that real quick.
Last year I was selected as the 2023, I guess it was rewarded last year, the Secure Safari Officer of the Year. I'm extremely blessed to have that.
Awesome.
And fun fact, talking about Jeff being used to be my lieutenant, made my first bait case with Jeff, turkey bait case. So pretty
awesome.
Unique connection there.
Yeah. Well, and y'all continue to work together real closely, and we'll learn a little more about that today and some of the events that we'll cover. But anyway, so today is all about Hurricane Helene and some of the events that happened back in September. And I'm just going to throw out a few stats here, and then we'll dive into some of these stories. But during that time, there was up to 9 inches of rainfall in the area. The Nolichucky reached a flow rate of 84,000 cubic feet per second, which is typically around 500 to 600. The river was estimated to be rising at 2 feet per hour. Close to 1.3 million gallons of water was pouring over the Nolichucky Dam each second. The quick rise in the water level surprised a lot of people, leaving a lot of people stranded. And that's what we're going to kind of cover today. These folks that are in front of me played a huge part in rescuing a lot of people. And we're going to hear those stories today and touch on some of that. But if you want to see some of the more longer stories or full video and some of the stuff that we've put out about this, you can visit our YouTube page and see some of that intense footage of these rescues. We'll also have some of that on this show, so if you're watching, you'll be able to see some of that footage. But our TWRA officers go above and beyond and stepped up in this event and have saved a lot of lives. And Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of kick this off with that first rescue that you'd mentioned that you wanted to cover today, and kind of get it started there, if you don't mind.
I will. I'll probably pass the mic rather quickly because it's all, and you're going to hear this a lot. There was a lot of divine intervention that played out that day to make things work out for God's glory and for our good and for the people that we were sincerely trying to help. So when I arrived at Dave Fender Road, and they'll have to tell you how we all kind of ended up at that spot, these 3 were already gone in a boat making their second trip to go after somebody. And you talk about a feeling of disappointment when I saw them leaving. I call it the shoreline, but this is a field. The flood had backed up into these people's farm right here. They're leaving to go back out. I'm like, I'm supposed to be in that boat. Why did I not make it? Why did I tally? Whatever. The reason I wasn't there was the man that they rescued and his 2 dogs were rather heavy. And had I been in there, we could have been going down toward that Nolichucky Dam that was spilling 1.3 million gallons of water. So it worked out for the best. Everyone was rescued. But I'm going to pass it off and let them tell you kind of how we ended up at that spot, because it was, I don't think any of us left for work that day thinking we're all going to Dave Fender Road and we're going to perform some rescues.
Yeah. Jump in. Don't be shy and share. And let's share that story.
Okay.
And everybody's looking at Shelley.
Everybody's looking at me. So that morning, I wouldn't say it started off like any other morning for us, because we knew the rivers were going to rise. They always do. And we knew how much water was dumping in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And our rivers come from North Carolina, and so the French Broad, the Nolichucky, and the Pigeon, and so I think everybody was just kind of, we knew it was gonna rise, but what did we need to do? And so a lot of people are already out working. We had a team of call out around, I don't know, I want to say about noon, 12:30, something like that, and they wanted our officers to bring boats to Unicoi County, to the Unicoi County Hospital, to Irwin, to the Unicoi County Hospital. They needed to rescue a lot of, patients and workers that were on the roof.
Because that was flooding.
It was totally flooded, yeah. The word I had gotten was the military vehicles could go in like 7 feet of water, maybe. And this was already 15 feet of water.
Wow.
So nobody could get in there but boats. Mm. And so about 5 minutes later, they called us off. So put that out on the radio that, it's a no-go right now. And then it was probably 25, 30 minutes later, we got the call again. Y'all have to go. So everybody just kind of started headed that way. I think Jeff would have been the first one to get there. One of the first ones anyway to get there, just due to his location, proximity there to Irwin. And so he was headed on his way, and I heard him on the radio talking with dispatch about someone flagging him down, that some people were in a house, on top of houses, in a house, needed rescue. So
you're headed to the hospital, and now you've been redirected to this house.
Yeah. And this was kind of it was on the way for me. If I was going to Irwin, I would take 107 to get up there. Jeff took 107 to get up there. Justin probably would have came the same way, and Matt. So we all would have gone through that area. We didn't really divert to go there, but once we got to that area, we stopped, and Jeff shared his location with me. I met up with him probably 20, 30 minutes later, maybe after everything was going on. And then Justin had grabbed a boat. He was headed that way. Maybe another 15, 20 minutes or so after I had arrived, Justin got there, and we just jumped in and went. Matt was headed that way. He had called me and asked if he could do anything to help. I said, come on. I don't know what we're going to be into, but just come on. So
yeah, starting out your day, you had no idea what to expect or, what would be ahead of you. And what was going through your mind, though, as you were on the road headed towards the hospital, and just what were you thinking at that moment? Like, I'm sure you're mentally trying to prepare for what's ahead. You don't really know. You've heard some reports maybe, but what was going through your mind at that time?
My mind, I was just thinking, I don't doubt our guys' training, but please let them go home tonight to their families.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my heaviest thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, living in and around the river, I think people become complacent with flooding. They're used to floods coming up. And I think some of that created the situation where people refused to leave. And so I was sort of thinking about, this is just probably going to be one of our average floods. I didn't think it was going to get to the extent that it did. And of course, I was headed down Highway 107 toward the hospital, and I got flagged down by a car. And they told me that on Dave Fender Road that there was at least 3 people and a couple of pets that needed to be rescued. And when I pulled down there, I was pretty shocked at what I saw. The water was way out of the banks, probably, I would say, close to 400 or 500 yards out of the main channel. It had already taken some homes on that road. And the most frustrating part for me is that I was there to help and had no ability to help. So I'm there without a boat. I'm, of course, talking to, at the time, Major Hammonds, Lieutenant Colonel Hammonds now, keeping her in the loop. I ended up talking to Justin and saying, hey, can you get down here? We've got a live rescue that needs to go on. And so I was talking to the guy on the phone, and he tells me right off the bat, I've got almost no battery left. And he's telling me what's going on, where he's at. And I'm like, we're coming. But little did I know it was going to be, it felt like an hour. I'm not sure exactly how long it took, but I'm sitting there. People are staring at me, wanting me to do something, and can't.
You just can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, ultimately, Shelly shows up, and that kind of gives me a little bit of relief. I'm like, okay, I've got somebody with me now. And then we're waiting on Justin to show up with the boat, and maybe.
I was coming from Jefferson County, and I'll give a shout out to my partner, my boating officer, Hunter Wisecarver. He covers Cherokee and Douglas. I was like, I'm going to grab our jet, because I grew up in Greene County. We're used to floods. When it floods, it means we get to duck hunt. Like, we've never had a flood like this. So in my head, I'm thinking, normal flood, I'm going to grab the jet. And Hunter radioed. He was in Cocke County helping with the flood already. He's like, hey, grab the prop. And I didn't want to take our prop boat in Dandridge in case they needed it. But he's like, hey, take it. And man, divine intervention, Hunter saying that saved our life, because we would have died in the jet. That jet wouldn't have been able to operate in that water. So went and grabbed our 90 prop and went up the interstate, and I could hear Jeff and Shelly talking on the radio about what was going on. And I was family and friends were sending me pictures, and at a red light, I was able to look at my phone and see like the hospital picture. And I was like, ooh, it's a little bit different flood than what we're used to. It's halfway up the hospital, and it looks like something you'd see on CNN at night with a breaking alert. And I was like, this is pretty serious. So I heard Prater on the radio. When he called me, I was like, what do you need? Where am I going? Because I could tell it was worse. He's like, I need you to come Washington County 107. So I hopped off the interstate and headed that way. And I can't remember who. Someone said there was a house going down the river. And at this point, I could see the water backed up. It's 600 yards out of its banks. And I saw a 2-story house going down the river, not floating. Had to have been doing 20, 25 mile an hour going down the river. And I'm like, all right, this is serious. And it really didn't fully set in until you get out there in a boat. But I trusted our training and that I felt comfortable getting a boat out there in that water, but it was pretty swift.
And mind you, like Jeff said, this is 400 or 500 yards away from the main stem of that river. Had this been right on the main part of that river, it would have been a death wish to have launched probably a boat of any kind, a raft, inflatable, whatever, much less a rigid hull boat like we were in. We couldn't have done what we done had it not been so far away from the river. Water was still rushing pretty hard. Talk about all the crap that was coming down through there. You've mentioned it several times, the stuff that was coming by.
You could see it in the videos, yeah.
Yeah, just anything you can think of. It was picking up round bales. It was picking up garages, anything laying around, grills, anything. Cars.
Yeah.
Giant propane tanks.
Yeah.
Hissing.
A lot of those.
The fabric in the fields from the tomato fields, and that was my biggest concern was if anyone's ever drove a prop boat, you don't want to get something in your prop.
Oh, definitely.
And I was worried the whole time, like, hey, if this prop stops, we're in trouble.
So take us to that point. The boat gets launched. Y'all are in it. You're going out, not for Brian yet, the man inside the house, but you had to divert because you thought you were going out for him. Is that right?
Well, our intent was to go to Brian first. And when we got over there, Justin immediately noticed that I'll let you jump in there.
So we went to Brian's house first, and we kind of had to go upstream first because there was a lot of debris in the water and come downstream. And then I had to drive past his house to come back upstream because if you turn too fast in that fast water, it's going to dump our boat. So I kind of come up to his house, and in the video you can see there's about a foot left of chain link fence. So I'm trying to navigate all that and not get stuck in something, get caught in a strainer. So Prater was talking to Brian on the phone, and I think he was in the attic with his dogs, and we was trying to get him out. And while they're working on that, Lieutenant Colonel was holding on to the house. Prater was talking to him on the phone, and there's a grandfather and his grandson on top of this block shed beside of us, and I'm starting to see the water come through the bricks. I'm talking like 5 feet up coming through. I'm like, hey, that shed's about to go down. Let's get them. Their life is in imminent danger. Like 60 more seconds, I don't think they're going to be there.
Yeah.
So we pushed off, grabbed them, and I was hoping in that time Brian could get out of the attic and be waiting on us. And thankfully, we was able to get them in the boat and get them back, turned right back around. And at that point, Brian had made it back down. But in the 2-3 minutes it took us to get back, maybe 5 minutes, that water had rose to level with that chain link fence. So it went up 12 inches in 5 minutes.
Wow.
You couldn't barely see the chain link fence. And then I'm going to throw it back to Prater because I was just driving the boat at that moment. But we were having issues with the boat, and something I've not encountered. That water was so thick with silt that it was having trouble. The water pump wasn't cycling water.
Right. Yeah.
What us country boys call the motor ain't peeing. That's a bad thing. It's going to overheat. It wasn't peeing.
Yeah.
So I was constantly having to shut the boat off, rev it, and get all that silt out of the engine. So I was dealing with that the whole time. And while Major was holding on to a clothesline, I was keeping it like quarter, almost half throttle just to keep us in place of how fast the water was moving. And then,
well, that shows the experience kicking in. Our officers know how to operate their equipment and are ready for whatever may come their way. That's awesome. So you jump out and you're going after this guy, right?
So as we approach the home, you can hear him beating on the door, and he's yelling, "I'm stuck, I'm trapped," something of that nature. And you can tell he's panicking. And of course, Shelly and I are in the front of the boat, and I look at her and I'm like, "Are you good with me going?" And just to sort of give you a little imagery here is around this home, the water's just rushing around, but like behind it was like a little eddy. Like the home was creating this calm water. So when I got in, I'm thinking, easy, right? I'm just going to walk over here to the door. I'm going to get him, and we're going to go back to the boat, and we'll go to the house.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's not exactly the way that worked. As I got over to the doorway, just trying to see what was going on with him, I reached up to try to grab the door to get into the home, and the whole door frame and everything came out on top of me. And behind that was the couch and everything else in that room. So it sort of I'm trying to walk on water, and I'm not doing a very good job of it. And it sort of flushed me back, maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 yards. And what I haven't really told a ton of people, except the people in this group here, is there was a piece of like wrought iron furniture that was in that room. Maybe I sort of think of it as something a plant would sit on. My bootlace got hung around that, and it was holding me and trying to drag me. So I'm sitting back trying to get my lace off that stool or end table, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah. And eventually I get it off. I make it back up to the door frame, and somehow in that time Brian has got that door open and has made it down he's coming down the side out of the main flow of the water coming through the home. Let me back up to say, as soon as that door came out, the water was flowing just hard through the home. And so he was kind of sidestepping that. And I asked for a life jacket, and I asked for a throw bag. So I threw him a life jacket. He just put it on. It was a horse collar. He put it on, didn't strap it or anything, just had something on.
Right, yeah. Do what you can do, yeah.
Yeah. So I threw him the throw bag, and he at this point is focused on the dogs. Mm-hmm. He's got a lab and an older beagle, gray-faced beagle. It would struggle to swim in that for sure.
Sure.
And as he come down through there, he tried to send the dog. The dog didn't want to come to me. So it swam down, turned around, went back. And so he sent it back. And when it come by me, I tried to grab it, and it made it by me.
Wow.
So I had to swim over and grab it. I took it over to the boat and threw it. Justin grabbed it and threw it in. And all the while, Shelly is hanging on for dear life.
Right.
So
holding that boat in place.
Don't minimize anything that she did. Yeah. She absolutely held us in place. I know Justin was bumping the motor, but at one point it died. Mm-hmm. So she was vital in this whole thing.
Like one hand on the piece of pipe clothesline and one hand on the boat, like holding at times the entire boat.
Yeah.
To that house. So.
Yeah.
Like
we'll let you talk about that.
It's on video. You can see it.
So he comes down with the second dog, the older beagle, and it's got a collar and a leash, and he's kind of reaching out and said, "Do you have it? Do you have it?" Well, I grabbed it. I couldn't reach the dog, so I grabbed it by the collar, and I thought, when it goes down, I'll just pull it to me. Well, it slipped right out of the collar, of course, and it goes under, and I just take off swimming. Takes me a little bit longer to catch up with that dog, but I get to the beagle, and I'm working my way back over to the boat. And at this point, Brian has made it to the doorway, and he's stuck. And I'll let you jump in again, Justin, here.
Well, we're going to pause right there because we're going to run out of time, but we're going to do another show. This is some great information and stories, and we want to keep sharing this. And we're going to do a part 2 if you guys will stick around for a part 2.
Absolutely.
And we'll continue the story. Don't be checking your watch. We'll pick this story back up. I appreciate everybody tuning in and watching and listening today. Keep coming back for part 2 for this show, and we'll see you next time.
Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Join us as we celebrate 75 years of conservation in our great state. You can invest in Tennessee's wildlife future by purchasing a license at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com. That's GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.